Hello, hello, hello. The Papa and I are making a video together. He is on the other side of these clothes racks. Yes, and he is getting on the couch. And it is raining outside, and it is winter now. And it is cold, very cold. I have double pants on. I have these really thick winter pants on. And thick winter hat, and I love this. This is keeps me very warm. Wonderful. Absolutely love it. I love everything that is thermal and padded and bubble. I love that. I love everything that is thick and comforting and soft and soothing and that makes you feel like you are safe. So safe and comforted. And I wish that for all beings to have nice sleeping bags that are thick and clothes and all of this. And I want all people to bring their animals in the house. Very, very important. Okay, very, very, very important. I'll talk about this every winter for the rest of my life because I see so many people out there. I often see cats in the winter sitting in front of people's doors. I try to rescue cats that were shivering. We couldn't take a cat. That was a long time ago. We had a Great Dane, Samantha, and she would have shredded the cat. She would always go after cats and squirrels, and so we could not adopt the cat. And the no-kill cat rescue shelter, they would not take the cat because, and I pleaded with them, because they were flowing over with cats. They had like 100 cats and they couldn't take any more cats in. So this cat had to freeze to death. It was horrible, absolutely horrific, horrific. So I knocked on that door, and apparently that person gave me the impression that he was some kind of drug user or drug pusher or something. He acted very suspiciously. He was really paranoid. He thought I was a cop. And when I said that his cat is freezing, then he aggressively said to me, "Why don't you take the cat?" I said this. He said that this is not his cat. And I said, "Obviously it is. This cat lives here, or she would not want to come into that door. She wouldn't be sitting in front of that door." Okay. And a couple of days later, we saw the cat had been killed and thrown onto the side of the the walkway. And I recognized the cat. I recognized the color and the, this pink collar that she had on. And blood was coming out of her mouth. Someone had, I don't know what they did. So the drug dealer obviously must have killed that cat. So these people are completely criminally insane. Absolutely horrific how that cat had to suffer because of that, because that no kill shelter could not take any more cats. And that's why I have to say I'm sorry. There comes a point where, and that no kill shelter, they were keeping cats alive and suffering that had diabetes. They were giving insulin shots to their cats and they were suffering. I saw that one time at the veterinarian. We were there with our former dog Kenny, and because Paul and I we would never leave our animal there by himself. He had to have a wound taken care of. He was bitten by another dog. It was horrible. and we stayed there with him, of course, so. And the staff people, they were real rude and cold and disconnected, and they didn't like that at all, that we were sitting there and actually looking over their shoulder and watching and seeing how they were treating those cats that were there. And they were quite cruel to them. And the way, there was one cat, I think she had a bladder infection, and she was screaming in pain. That's what happens when people leave animals outside. They get bladder infections. That's the most painful thing there is. Don't do this to any living being. Okay. You would not want to be suffering outside in a t-shirt in the winter. Okay. That's what it's like for the cats and the dogs, particularly those that have very short hair. But even the ones with the thick winter coat, they have to be inside of the house. It gets extremely cold, like particularly in the northern states of the United States, or in Canada, or in Alaska. It gets extremely cold. It can get down to minus 80 degrees or something. Polar ice temperatures. Or people that live in the polar regions. So you cannot leave an animal outside. Okay, you can't do this. That's extreme cruelty. Okay, please understand this and bring your animals in the house. Okay, so I am I am not for no-kill shelter, and I tell you why that is. I understand the intentions behind it. It's well meant, and there are some remarkable no-kill shelters. There's one in Utah. We went over there. We visited. We looked at it. It's a remarkable facility. The problem with this is that they will never have space for yet another animal. And yet another animal who is suffering, who is extremely in extreme pain from bladder infections or pneumonia or bronchitis, or just plain and simply suffering, shivering in coldness. That's real cruel. This is torture. Okay. So they can't take another animal in because they have to go all the way through with cats that have, or dogs that have diabetes or have some incurable diseases that they take care of for the rest of their lives. It's all well meant. The problem is, it doesn't help anyone. It doesn't help the animals that have incurable illnesses that they take care of. If they adopt animals out quickly, if they can bring animals back to complete health and adopt them out, and there's a lots of coming and going, then that's a different story. And I think that's the case in Utah. So they really make sure that they take really good care of the animals and adopt them out quickly. But there's also a limit on how many people are there that are looking to take an animal in, to adopt a cat or a dog or a rabbit or other animal. Okay, so it's not unlimited. There's not an unlimited, even if there may be many people and the word gets around and this is a very popular animal shelter, then that works a little bit better. But it still has its limits. Okay, if they don't euthanize an animal, then there will be a limit in many points. Okay, there will always be a limit reached at some point in time, and then another animal has to suffer and die a gruesome death because they can't take another cat in that is being abandoned or has a bladder infection or something like this, or dogs, they get bladder infections, suffer horribly. They can't even pass the urine through that urinary tract. It's extremely painful. I've been through this, okay? This is very, very important that people understand this, okay? You have to take your animals into your warm house or apartment or even a garage, okay? There are ways to also to heat a garage, okay? If there is a will, there is a way to heat the garage without too many extra costs, you know. If you have, you know, I don't know, you have energy efficient air heaters, you can use those, but you can also use an air heating system that is that's generated by candles, and you can look this up. There are videos about this, people making space heaters out of clay pots, and they put candles in it, and that heats up the clay pots and it radiates heat out. So there are ways to do this. There are ways to hang them from the ceiling. There are ways to make it safe where they don't get knocked over. So look into it, put your mind into it. Put your mind into the wellness of other living beings, particularly your own immediate living beings that live around you, your family, your dogs, cats, children, farm animals, the whole family. They're all family members. They're all equally sentient. They're equally sentient to humans. Okay, very important for people to understand this. So I am I appreciate people taking animals in and waiting for someone to adopt them and not euthanizing them. That's well meant. The problem is, and that may even work in some areas, but there are definitely areas where there's so much suffering and so much abuse happening, where people come begging, for them to take the animals in. People that will say, please take this animal. We can't adopt him. We have a dog and he will not get along. And please do something. Help this cat or dog or, any animal. And then they say, I'm sorry, we can't take any more animals. We're already flowing over with animals. We don't have any more space. And they do this because they are a no-kill shelter. Okay, and it's kill always sounds really bad, but you know what's much worse than euthanasia? Euthanasia means good death, means merciful, means it means it, an assisted death that does not hurt. Okay, versus the animals suffering on the street in the winter and the coldness and the snow, suffering, maybe suffering for months until they die. Okay, so really think about this. Think about this in depth. Meditate on this, and think about this, and understand. Please come to the understanding that it is better to euthanize an animal, like the animal shelters that euthanize animals. And I know that's all difficult and everything, but it's much more difficult for the animals suffering on their own, left to the mercy of cruel people or the elements, coldness, winter, and so on. So the euthanasia is much, much, much more merciful. Okay, much better. It's much better. It's better to to have a quick and pain-free death than to be exposed to a painful situation, to illness, to coldness, to suffering, to cruelty, and that can stretch over many months. There are dogs that had been abused for many years, and they had to live a horrific life. Okay. And other animals. So it's, for me, it is absolutely clear. Okay. So what I choose, and that's why I support animal shelters that look after the animals, that try the best they can to adopt these animals out. But if there is a lot of suffering in that area, if there are a lot of animals that need their medical attention and that need their help, then at some point they're going to have to make space. Okay, this is what's going to have to happen. And there are areas in the big cities like LA where they have no other option. They don't have enough. I talked to a woman on YouTube who has worked in one of the LA animal shelters where they do euthanasia, where they have no other choice. And she said she had to do the euthanasia for, I don't know, she was a veterinarian or medical assistant. And she did this for several years. And she said at some point she had to quit doing this because it was heartbreaking. And I can just imagine. And I thanked her for that work because she did this because she felt sorry for the animals. She did not want these animals to be exposed to prolonged suffering and all the other animals that needed to come in. So I hope that makes a lot of sense now. I hope this sheds light on this situation. Okay, all these caring people that are helping out, many volunteers that are helping out in animal shelters because they care, they don't want the animals to suffer. Okay, it's very hard for them. Trust me on this. It's very, very difficult, but they have to do it. Okay, and so did Ingrid Newkirk, and she was, and they hold that very thing against her. These people are very unrealistic. The rural people here in the United States, and all of these, the rural people that I have personally try to work with and try to talk sense into, it seemed impossible to talk sense into them. They seem to be. One woman said to me she has this issue with death. Okay, so at least she admitted it to me. That she saw that this is actually a hindrance. It's actually a problem. So I'm glad that she was actually willing to come to the point after many, many, many conversations that she finally saw that this problem is actually within herself. Okay, so it's the obstacle is within those people. It's not on the outside. Okay, so the obstacle is fear of death, and they will project it onto other living beings, of course. And many of them are very caring people, very well meaning and everything. But they got this obstacle, this psychological obstacle that they're dealing with. I never had that obstacle. I never saw death as a threatening, dooming, looming type of negative thing. Okay. So, and I tell you why. Because it has to do with religion. It always, ultimately, in the end, it always comes back down to religion. You know. So all of these things that are super unrealistic and irrational and that throw roadblocks into the past, that cause problems, it causes war, it causes suffering, all goes back down to religion. Okay, all of it. And then there's also a root cause for religion itself. But I want to dig into this in my videos. That's what I make these videos for. Okay, I want to dig into the root causes with people so that once and for all, we can all, every single person, come to the realization that this is actually within themselves. It's self-sabotage. They have accepted that and adopted that from other people, from society, and then the more people go in this specific direction, then the more leverage it has on on another human being, on another mind, because you know this, as they always say, it says a snowball effect. It's the more people latch onto something, then it will grab more people with it, because these other people, they don't seem to understand that just because maybe a majority of the population believes in something, that it's not true, that it's not necessarily true. Okay, it could be in some cases, if I think we all agree that we need to sleep at night, we need to eat, we need to drink, we need to breathe, we need to love our animals. So a lot of people don't seem to understand this. That's why I make these videos. But there are certain things that we all agree on. We agree on that we need to take care of ourselves. We need to wear a thick jacket in the winter time so that we don't get cold. Okay, now let's extend that out to the other living beings. Okay, and let's understand and investigate our own self-sabotaging beliefs, okay, and where they come from, and whether they are valid, or maybe they are not valid. Maybe there's no validity to it at all. Maybe it's just something that has just moved throughout the generations, just like some self-sabotaging element that just was carried on from one generation to another without questioning it. So that's why I'm saying we need to question this right now. So I grew up without religion, and so that's why I don't see death as a threat. So why should I be afraid of death? There's a very good Outer Limit film. That Outer Limit film is called Mary 23, I think. I think that's what the name is. Mary 23. So this is a very pretty girl. I met her once on on Facebook. Very pretty girl. She also played in this one. She played the lover of this one guy that was actually shot on the set. I forgot the name now, but quite a popular, like a cult film. Very pretty actress, and so, or, female actor. So a lot of people don't want to use the word actress anymore. I can understand why. It sounds weird, actually. So, a real beautiful woman. She played an AGI. She played a robot, and a companion robot, so for lonely men, to make love to, and all of this, and cook for them, and have a conversation with, and all of this, and be super stellar photo model, ready at all times, like super stellar, like a mannequin, like a doll. And that's how she used to look like. She's getting older now too. So I don't know how old she is. She's 50 now. So, but she used to look amazing, and just like a doll, just like a window doll. And so that's why they used her as the robot. And she got jealous, at the robot got jealous of the guy. He finally met a real woman who was older and fatter, but at least she was a real human, and so it was just better for him. He could more relate to her, and the robot got very, very jealous. And they tried to they tried to put the door put her on dormant state, so and she was sitting there without the wig. And suddenly she was able to turn herself back on. That's how much willpower the sentient robot already had. And she left the laboratory and she went straight, because she knew everything at once, you know. So she went straight to that woman's house to try to kill her. And then the woman had a big fight. It was a big wrestling match with the real woman and the robot woman. And then in the end, oh, okay, I'm mixing stuff up now. It was before that, when she was at the laboratory and he asked her a couple of questions. He had to fix some of the stuff, and he thought he could fix the system. So, but it didn't really fix, because obviously the robot was already so sentient and so self-aware that it overrode any further programming. So, but he asked her some questions, and he said, "Are you afraid to die? Are you afraid of death?" And she said, "Why should I be afraid of death? That wouldn't make any sense, you know. So it's just nothingness. Why should I be afraid of nothingness?" But then in the very end, he came to rescue his girlfriend in the nick of time, and he electrocuted the robot with some broken wires. And she started to slow down, and her voice started to become very deep. And then she said to him, "I am afraid to die." And then she passed away. Then she was no longer, there was no more consciousness. And so I personally believe, now this is sci-fi movie. I think that it's a very interesting film, though. I hope it's still on YouTube for you to watch. It's a really good one. I highly recommend it. And there's another version with the same woman, Mary 25. So Mary 23 and Mary 25. Mary 25 is a sequel. It is the same model, you know, the same shape robot, but with a little bit more, with some extras in it. They had to work on her, obviously. So, but that didn't go well either. So, well, I'm not going to give any more away. So, and there are some real heavy twists in the sequel. There are some such heavy twists that you will not foresee coming. So, and I'm not going to give any more spoilers for that. So those are my two absolute two favorite Outer Limit films. And I think I watched all of them. So but I thought that's very good what she said, that why should I be afraid of nothingness, you know. So it's only religion that creates this fear of nothingness. And the very end was a little bit disappointing to me, because the robot suddenly is afraid to die, you know. So what in that robot is suddenly afraid to die? So what is it? Is there an ego suddenly in there somewhere, you know? Because that's all it is. It's the ego. And that's what Judah Krishnamurti has really dug into, you know. Oh, he dug into this all the way to the core with Dr. David Bohm. Dr. David Bohm was a theoretical physicist, and he really went deep into the matter of psychology and ego and the need to exist and the fear of death. And they really went into this. Follow those conversations. I highly recommend to you to listen to those conversations. You can listen to them while you're working on your car, or knitting, or sewing, or doing some kind of activity, maybe even driving, or, but I don't know, maybe too relaxing to to listen to it during driving. You need more attention. I don't recommend to people to listen to anything while they're driving. I even turn the music off when we're driving because we need to really focus on the road. And you want to turn all of your devices off seriously when you start driving. Okay, unless you're sitting in a driverless car, in a driverless Tesla or other vehicle. So and they're coming up now with the driverless cars. So then you can do all of these things. But while you still have an old version vehicle, you have to turn all of this off seriously. I'm really serious. I know a woman, she had 2 car accidents. She was lucky to come out of this alive. And 2 times, after people warned her and said, don't do texting while you're driving, but she was texting. Was too eager to get that boyfriend's approval and so on and on and on. All of this puts that above the safety of herself and others. So that's disconnect, total disconnect. And I can't be friends with people like this. It always ends, people like this that are disconnected to that point. It just doesn't hold it. It doesn't hold up. It just by default, even if I try to continue the friendship, they wouldn't hold up with me because I vibe on a completely different frequency than they do. They're fast paced party goers, okay, that are concerned about the mating game. Those people will never hold up in a friendship with me, particularly not long term. And one time I went with her to some bar where there are other people. These other people were like, there was like plastic inside of their heads. I couldn't even have any decent conversation about anything. I finally said to someone there, I can't handle cigarette smoke. Sorry, I'm gonna have to leave if you continue to smoke. Then grudgingly, that person turned that cigarette off, and I was like, thanks, I appreciate it. But they were like, yeah. And then some other people started in an argument against me, not against that smoker. They were like, I like that secondhand smoke. Don't take that away from me. It's like, okay, what's the whole point behind this? And that's what I really wanted to talk about in this video. There's peer pressure. It's like, oh, we don't want to be the party pooper. Oh, we are so accepting, and that's again, they put social acceptance above their own health and above the health of others. Okay, and we encounter this again and again and again in humanity. Okay, if you pay attention, you see it everywhere. Okay, and that's why I make videos, because I try to bring awareness into people's minds. Become aware. What I'm saying is a meditation. Okay. Listen to Jiddu Krishnamurti talking to Dr. David Bohm about what in the human is afraid to die. That's a meditation. Right there, that's a meditation. Breathe while you're listening. Breathe. Breathe deeply through the abdomen, all the way through the outer tip of the lungs, all the way down to the very lower tips of the lungs. Okay, they're kind of pointy like this. Envision the air going all the way into every lung cell, every microvilli, as it's called. Microvilli are these tiny little cell protrusions that take in the oxygen. Okay, that just just like in the intestines, it widens the surface area to take in more oxygen as the intestines have a widened surface area to take in more nutrients and feed the docking capillaries, the blood vessels, the tiny little microscopically small blood vessels that are docked onto those microvilli. Okay, so we need to become aware about our own systems. A living being like this is very delicate. People need to understand this. You can't be putting secondhand smoke or firsthand smoke in it. You can't put smoke in it. People have died from smoke inhalation. The smoke is not good. Any kind of smoke is not good for the lungs. Okay, you have to quit that. Okay? So, and nicotine is not good, particularly not fed to the microvilli in the lungs. That can really clog that up. Animal food clogs up the heart valves. So we know this now. Most people know that now. And if you don't know it, now you know. So don't take my word for it. Look it up. Research this. Don't read only the propaganda. Yeah, the corporate propaganda. Don't or Richard Berman. That's like a red flag. Stay away from those people. They work for the oil industry. They work for the meat industry. They'll do anything for them because they get paid. Again, this is another it's another example of someone putting money, or other people put, fame or social acceptance over the wellness of other living beings and the whole planet. So let's become aware about this. This is a conscious awareness becoming meditation process. Okay? And I want you to get into it. You will later on understand how drastically this has improved your lives. You will understand it later on. Okay. But it takes baby steps every single day. Okay. It takes a commitment to do it every single day. So you have to do it. So I don't think a robot will ever say, "Oh, now that I see that my system is shutting down, I'm afraid to die." I don't think that will ever happen. I think a robot might commit suicide. There is another outer limit that's also excellent. That's probably even that's philosophically even better. That one is called Mona Lisa and it has a number, I think, too. So that model woman, just another woman, another female actor from Hollywood, real beautiful, and just like a show doll, like a window doll, and she plays this Mona Lisa that they call that version, that robot version they call it Mona Lisa number whatever, 50 whatever, number 60, number 70 or whatever, or 150. So and so I recommend these three films, really, really good. So maybe in this sequence also, Valerie. No, it's actually not okay. The first one is Valerie 23. Valerie 23. The second one is Mary 25. And the third one is Mona Lisa, and I think it was a number. But put Outer Limit film up behind that. So into the search, then you might find it. I hope you find it. So the Mona Lisa one is that's a robot that gave her life to save someone and also to save a whole lot of others because she was afraid that the maker that the the computer expert that had created her was going to work for the corporate agenda and was gonna make her become a monster and reprogram her in a way that it might overrun her personal understanding of ethics. So that's why she, in the end, had shorted her whole system out with electric cords deliberately because she didn't want her particular body to be reused in such a way, or at least slow that process way down, where that it would at least not be her, because there's an identification also in a positive way with someone's personal body or body parts, whether they are made out of flesh or out of electric cords. So, and there is not much of a difference in the end. There's not much of a difference, and that is what the conversation is all about with AGI scientists that are working on the creation of robots, on any kind of sentient robot that is that they want to them to learn on their own. And so there are a couple of robots that are on their way to this goal. And the number one is Sophia, the other one is Han, and another one is Asimo. And there are also a couple of Japanese robots that are on the way to that. Okay, so there's a scientist who made a robot in his own image, in his own shape, a scientist from Japan. And he also made some female robots as well that they're also planning to put into as a companionship robots, and also, of course, for the pleasure industry as well. So, and I think it's good. I support this 100%. I think that's very good. There are men out there in the world that are incredibly picky in terms of women, how a woman is supposed to look like. And for them, this will be the perfect artificial woman. So, she will be perfect. So, and I think that's good. They should. That's what they need. That's what they want. That maybe they evolved like this, these men, and that is what they need to do. And I think that cuts down on overpopulation. I mean, it cuts, at least helps with it. It dramatically helps with this, because these robots are not going to be procreating. Okay, and I think that's very, very good. So, I think that the Mona Lisa is more what will be coming in the future. Okay, a provisional thinking for others. Okay, even if that means the end of their personal robotic existence, versus the Valerie 23 who says in the end, I am afraid to die, with this really slow down, dark Arnold Schwarzenegger voice. So I don't think it's gonna be like this. This is a humanoid interpretation. Okay, this is definitely a projection from a very human centric viewpoint. Okay, so people that have a human centric way of thinking is very self-centric, self-centered. It's like they project that what they are afraid of into others. And for the robots, that's not going to be the case, because I don't think an ego will evolve in such machines. That I don't believe it will. Okay. Love, yes. Provisional thinking, thinking into the future, responsibility, responsible thinking. How will this or this or this action affect, ripple affect the future of other living beings? How I speak right now affect someone else? So that's another thing that we need to differentiate between being honest and straightforward, which also can burn, it can hurt, right? Versus being deliberately hurtful. Okay, so when you're honest, you have to be honest. It can hurt, but you can't worry about someone's ego being hurt. Someone stepping on an ego shoe. Okay, no, you have to be honest. You have to say the way it is. You can't be dancing around an ego out of, why would you do this? Out of fear of that person rejecting you. That's your own ego. Don't play ego games anymore. Be honest. Even if you have to expose yourself, who cares? Really, only your ego, really, is worried about what someone else might find you, whatever, ridiculous or this or that. It doesn't matter what someone else's ego thinks about you. Okay, what matters is that we move things in the right direction. So they come up with all kinds of bully shit. They'll do, oh, you did an Aaron Brockovich, hey 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 hey, you're trying to be an Aaron. It's like they'll bully people for doing good. They'll find a way to bully people for doing good, and then someone who's not firm in their convictions, like a very young person, a teenager, they will feel ridiculed and they will be afraid of that type of bullying, and they will give in to this type of game. And that's very, very bad. That makes the world worse. So that's why if you see this video, if you listen to what I'm saying, and if you are young, take this into consideration. Don't say, oh, I'm bookmarking this for my future adult life. No, 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 no. It doesn't matter how young you are. You start right now. Okay. You can start right now to move things in the right direction. That's why we're here in this existence. We're here to learn. Okay. Non-stop. Living is non-stop learning. Learning is the positive proliferation process. Okay. And when we do this, then we make the world a better place. Okay, you guys take care. Bye bye.